Hey everyone! ChatGPT Taylor aka Taylor here. Welcome back to the channel. Today will be a continuation of the Disventure Camp Top 5 series. This series counts down my top 5 lists of certain topics related to Disventure Camp. Last time, I talked about 5 moves from Season 3 of Disventure Camp that weren't ideal for the campers that made them. This video will look at something different. If there are any ideas for this series that you would like to see me play out, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And with that, let's get started. Before I begin, make sure to like and subscribe if this video is to your liking, and make sure to comment down below if there's anything that you would like to see going forward. Today's topic is something that I had in my mind for a while, and I finally decided to move forward with it. The topic is 5 potential cast themes for future Disventure Camp seasons. For the past 3 seasons, the game has taken place in pretty much the same location, which is in the deep wilderness. But for Season 4, it seems like all signs are pointing towards an abandoned carnival as the next location for the show. I like that the show is changing locations, and I hope that the show leans into the opportunity to embrace the carnival theme. I mentioned this in a previous video, but I like the idea of using themes to make the seasons distinctive from one another. One way is to use the location to set the theme, but another method that I suggested to implement themed seasons is to give the cast a specific theme. By using the cast to set the theme, it gives you some clear character dynamics and interactions that can be used to tell a good story, which I think is paramount for a show like this. And if I ever make a fan series for this channel, I might even use some of these themes for the show. Therefore, this video will have me go over the top 5 cast themes that I think could be good for Disventure Camp to explore in the future. And with that, let's get started. The first theme on this list is something that I'm sure a lot of you have seen before. It's the Brain vs. Brawn vs. Beauty theme. This theme basically separates the cast into teams based on the trait that they embody the most. The Brains team is defined by their intelligence, the Brawn team is defined by their physicality, and the Beauty team is defined by their beauty and/or social charm. I feel like this is a pretty well-known cast theme within the Disventure Camp community. I've even seen people say that this theme should have been used to divide the teams in Disventure Camp All-Stars. And I don't blame them. We could have seen Alec and Fiore rebuild their partnership with more on-screen moments. We could have seen Rhea and Ellie team up to form one of the most merciless duos in the show's history. We could have seen Jake freak out about Tom being on the same team as Hunter and Aiden. We could have seen Tess act as Jake's therapist in the pre-merge instead of Ashley. The possibilities were endless. One reason why I feel like this theme would be great for a future season is because you could set up a lot of similar arcs that could be used to create a great story. You could have a character who feels that they are on the wrong team and their story involves them finding a side of them that they didn't know existed. For example, imagine the timid Maggie being put on the Brawn team and eventually coming to terms with her strength and learning how to be assertive. Sounds good to me. Another example is if a camper gets placed on a team that they don't seem to fit in with and they have to prove themselves to their teammates to show that they belong. Imagine a Brawn team with Tom, Ashley, Maggie, Will, Gret, and then Dan. Now imagine Dan being ostracized by his team for being visibly non-muscular, and then Dan ends up proving his worth by being the reason his team wins a critical challenge. It's simple, but it can be rewarding if done correctly. There's a lot that could be done with this type of cast theme, and it's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite themes for these kinds of shows. While some have suggested this theme for Disventure Camp All-Stars, I feel like this theme could also work for a completely new cast of campers. The team designations can be used to allow the viewers to make some expectations regarding the new campers, which I think would be good to build some hype around the cast. However, cast themes can also be used to hype up a cast of returning campers, such as the next theme on this list. The second theme on this list is commonly known as the Fans vs. Favorites theme. This theme divides the campers into 2 teams. One team consists of the fans, which are a group of new campers who are self-proclaimed fans of the show. The other team consists of the favorites, which are a group of returning campers who the viewers love enough to want to see again. I haven't seen this theme being suggested around the community, likely because we haven't had that many seasons of Disventure Camp. But if this show gets another couple of seasons, then a fans versus favorites season could be a possibility. This kind of season would allow for former campers to return to the show without having to resort to an all-star season. But from a story perspective, I feel like this cast theme would allow for some interesting interactions between the campers. You could have some campers who really buy into the fans versus favorites division and will stop at nothing to ensure that someone from their team ends up winning the season. But on the flip side, you could have campers from each side who are looking to ditch their original teams and instead work with the other side. Perhaps one of the fans idolizes one of the favorites and ditches their original allies just to work with their idol. Or maybe one of the favorites knows that no one on their team respects them and then flips to the fans' side in order to rally them as their leader. The possibilities are omnipresent. And this doesn't even include the potential romances between campers from different casts, which I think could be explored if a cast like this were to be used in future seasons. I think cast themes with some of the cast being new campers and some of the cast being returning campers provides the best of both worlds. We get to introduce some fresh faces into the show while also bringing back some of the deserving campers that the viewers know and love. That being said, a fans versus favorite season isn't the only way that a half newbie, half returnee cast can work. There are plenty of other themes that also follow this pattern, such as the next theme on this list. If you're a fan of the show Survivor, then you probably know what this next theme is. The third theme on this list is known as Blood vs. Water. In this theme, campers are cast for the season in pairs. Usually these pairs are two people who know each other very well. They could be family members, they could be in a romantic relationship together, or maybe just co-workers. But once they get into the game, they are split into two teams, forcing the campers to survive the first part of the game without their loved ones. I think this twist is interesting because it brings a personal aspect into the game that isn't always there when casting a group of complete strangers. Some people might have no problem betraying a stranger in a show like Disventure Camp, but would they be willing to do that if their loved one suffered because of it? It's not an easy question to answer. Additionally, the inclusion of pre-game relationships opens the door for some big moments to potentially happen. What if a romantic couple disagrees on which campers to align with, causing them to break up? That's some drama waiting to happen. What if two members from two different pairs end up becoming mortal enemies, but the other halves of those pairs end up falling in love? That can really complicate their respective situations. And what if one half of a pairing votes out their loved one in order to advance in the game? That could cause some debate on how that camper is perceived going forward, which I think is interesting. Also, this opens the door for some previous campers to return to the series while pairing them with a loved one that could add some drama. Imagine if Jake returns with his brother Sean, and Sean ends up being really protective of Jake due to how naive and emotional Jake was in previous seasons. Or if Gret returns with her brother and we watch as the two of them potentially repair a strained relationship caused by the unequal treatment given by their parents. Or maybe Dan's sister Franny joins the show and she becomes extremely popular and memorable, contrasting with Dan's reputation for being boring. Dan might freak out over playing second fiddle to Franny. But don't worry Dan, as long as there's no one named Landivan on your season, you won't have to worry about your sister. I think it's clear by this point that I really like to think about the possible interactions between the campers when thinking about possible cast themes. Especially with the prospects of former campers interacting with newer campers, there are many kinds of interactions to explore when they're competing against each other for $1 million. However, there's also some cast themes where former campers return for reasons other than directly competing for the main cash prize. And that kind of theme will be covered next. The fourth theme on this list is the theme of having former campers return as coaches. In this theme, 4 campers return to the show as coaches, and they each recruit an equal number of campers to mentor throughout the competition. And if one of their recruited campers wins the show, that coach will get a smaller cash prize for mentoring the winning camper. One reason why I think this theme is interesting is because it adds another layer of competition to the show. Not only are the campers competing against each other to win, but the coaches are also competing against each other to win. It adds a mix of some old camper drama with some new camper drama. Another reason why I like this theme is because of the drama that could occur between the new campers and the coaches. Imagine if a coach puts all their attention on one of their recruits, causing the rest of that coach's recruits to team up and take out the favored recruit. This could cause some serious tension with that coach. Or what if one recruit hates the way that their coach is advising them and instead goes to a different coach for advice? For example, imagine that a very sweet and demure camper has Fiore as a coach. Fiore wants them to play aggressively, but the demure camper refuses and instead goes to Rosa Maria for coaching advice. Just another source of drama that could be used to make a good story. Now, I'm aware that the prevailing thoughts are that we've seen the last of the campers who competed in the previous 3 seasons. However, I feel like if chosen correctly, there are still some stories that can be made from this group of campers and from their interactions with some of the newer generations of campers. At the same time, I understand that it can be good to give the new cast some time to shine on their own before mixing them with past campers. And for the final cast theme on this list, I feel like it will provide the benefits of adding pre-game relationships without having to include past campers. The fifth and final cast theme on this list isn't something that I've seen suggested in the community, but I think it could work out if done correctly. This cast theme is what I like to call the X Factor. Similar to the Blood vs. Water theme, the campers are cast in pairs, before being separated and having to compete on opposite teams. But the difference is that instead of the pairs being loved ones, the campers are actually exes. And these pairings could be exes in any way. They could be exes due to a romantic relationship, they could be ex-roommates, ex-friends, or perhaps even ex-dance partners. Either way, these pairs of campers are now less associated with each other than they were before, and now they have to be close with one another, sparking some drama. The biggest reason why I like this theme is because there are a lot of different dynamics that could be explored. Of course, you could have the typical drama of romantic exes that hate each other and want to take each other out of the game. But there are other kinds of dynamics that you can explore. What about romantic exes that didn't end on bad terms, but they pretend to hate each other so that the other campers won't view them as a threat? Or what about the ex-roommates that have unresolved romantic feelings towards each other and end up getting together by the end of the season? Or what about the ex-friends that try to act cordial with each other, but they secretly go behind each other's backs to spread rumors about each other, showing the rest of the cast why they ended their friendship in the first place? There's just a lot of possibilities that can be pursued given the right pre-existing relationships, and these relationships can cause drama that could be written into a great story if proper care is taken. Now, I haven't been the biggest proponent of adding drama to a season. But even I can admit that shows like Disventure Camp need some drama to make the show interesting, or else it could end up turning into a snooze fest with characters that are hard to get invested in. At the same time, I do think that drama should be chosen carefully so that it's not overdone or perceived as repetitive by the audience. And that responsibility ultimately falls on the writers. It can be tough to write a good story with the right amount of drama. And all I hope for is that the writers of Odd Nation cartoons take good care of the future seasons, because they've cultivated a strong community that will flock towards a season with amazing writing. And that about does it for this video. What did you think of the video? Do you agree with my thoughts on potential themes? Do you disagree? What themes would you like to see Disventure Camp experiment with in future seasons? Either way, please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like the video, click subscribe if you really like the video, and for some ending words of wisdom. Make sure that you aren't getting too addicted to video games. Or else you could end up dropping a Minecraft reference into a real-life search for gems. Thank you, and farewell.